Hi, I'm Jeremy.
And I'm Casey.
Welcome to our farmstead, Cornucopia Orchards.
Working on the drain lines today? Last time you did that, you were cutting concrete.
Thankfully, no remodel work today. New work is a really nice change of pace.
So is this all the plumbing under the house?
The county said just the drains. We'll get the supply and the pipes for outdoor faucets with the rough plumbing for the whole house.
Do you have everything you need?
I'm sure there will be at least one trip to the store for more parts. Say, what's one thing poker players and plumbers can agree on?
Oh boy, I don't know. What?
A royal flush is better than a full house.
And looks like it's time for you to start working.
All right, so we've just finished off our floor joists the other afternoon. We're now getting ready for our underfloor work. So before we can move on to putting on the decking for the first floor, we have to have our underfloor inspection, which is going to inspect the plumbing and mechanical that all goes in to bring you your first floor piping for drains that will take down to the septic, as well as the supplies and the main trunk for all of the HVAC that runs to all the different parts of the first floor. So we're starting with plumbing. So I run a string just to indicate where we're starting from as far as the top of the house, the first plumbing fixture, running a straight line down to where we have the stack going out to the septic. I use that to just kind of mark off on all of my beams, since we're going to hang her below the beams for our drain pipe. And now I'm just putting up blocking. And what this does is it just gets slapped on the beam and it holds the pipe down so that we maintain the correct slope, which is basically more than a quarter of an inch every foot, or an inch every 4 feet. These beams are 8 feet apart for this first section, so I'm just doing one on each of the beams, and then one is going to hang down kind of right above my head. And then that will take a strap and hold that pipe from ever being able to move. It's going to keep it right where we want it, and we'll be able to tie into all of the piping from that to go up to the fixtures. So just a simple way of doing the hanger straps where it's not going to bounce on you. You know, if you had a kid in here who's playing jungle gym, I'm sure that one of the other of the two boys will get there eventually. Then they would not pull this down. It's going to be held really tight and it's not going to sag.
I have kind of figured out exactly the location using the plans and then getting everything marked up for where all of the fixtures are coming down through the floor. And we're pretty well solid on, you know, what the path is going to be to get up to the second floor. This, a couple of design limitations this house has. There's a lot of beams running through, and you can't drill through a beam holding the kind of loads that we have. So you have to get down through the walls, and you have to kind of work around those cross member supports. You can drill through a normal joist, provided it is within the specifications allowed. Usually it's within the center third and no more than a third of the depth of the joist. The total height can be drilled out. So we will have to do some of that, especially just to hook up, in bathroom groups to get everything hooked into one line for your drain down and for your vent going up. So we have all the spots where all that's coming down into the crawl space picked out. I've tried where I can to avoid using outside walls. It's not easy with this house because so much of the second story has bathroom over top of a big open space where there are no walls. So we have that limitation. Our blocks from yesterday ready for us to strap onto, and I've already figured out roughly what the path that each pipe has to take down to get into the main drain line, which runs along the joists this way. It should be nice if it ran that way, because then you would be just putting it up against the beam the whole way, and it would take out a lot less of the headroom, but it runs against the beams with the joists, is what it is. Have to achieve quite a bit of height difference, so it has to go below the beams instead of above. And additionally to that, you don't want to get in the way of that floor insulation's value in a vented crawl space like this. This is not an encapsulated crawl. A couple things I wanted to share. So I've found that when you run your strapping, I run it long to begin with, and then I'll take and fold over a section of a strapping, and I'll fold it at one of the big circles on this metal hanger. So you can see that there's small and large circles. And then the nails, I'll put 2 nails through, and it'll be doubled up on the strap. So you will have a really solid connection. It also gets the sharp cut ends. I fold them to the side where they will be up against the wood versus sticking out. So you're less likely to have it catch on things, including you. So that's the way that I set up my strap, and I'll go ahead and attach these on one side to each of these hanger drop downs and to the beam at the top. I've already started the main line, so we have our first piece here. It's just one solid 3-inch pipe, and 3 inches the minimum if you're carrying bathroom waste from toilet, wash closet. And you're always going to come up and then use this fixture is almost always approved for anything with waste. This Y fixture is what it's called. You can also do a long sweep in most of those applications, but not typically a sanity unless you're in a true vertical position, usually only for vent. And even that in some areas, I guess it's not allowed anymore. So we used a Y. We're taking a 45 to correct it once it's in line, and then it 45s out. So between the Y being a 45 in and of itself, and then a 45 elbow, we hit our 90. And it's going to be up, turned up, not flat, not full vertical. Obviously, that would only work if you were coming straight down into the stack. But it's going to be a slope somewhere in that realm of about 45 degrees as well. And then that allows you to join it up with a pipe coming down, and then you've got essentially a drop from above. You elbow out, and then if you are lucky and you're running close to the wall, you can just do a single 45 down and then hit this 45. We're not that lucky, so we had to do an elbow, a 45, another 45, a third, and then it will hit this. So we've got that first one done, and in order to make sure that it's in the right place and everything is good to go, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get this first section of the main horizontal drain, I'm going to get it hung to where it is approximately right there. I'm not a golden standard for plumbing. I've done it quite a few times, but I'm not a professional. This first hanger strap that I'm putting up here, I'm going to go ahead and just take the pipe and kind of get a size on it, because I can't really hold the pipe and strap it. And then subsequent pipes, I'll actually put the strap on once the pipe is up all the way down. But for this first one, that's going to be a little bit difficult. I can always thread this through so long as I'm not super off on it. So we're going to go ahead and work it that way. I just noted how far up the board the end of the doubled up section was, and that gives me a pretty good marker, if you will. All right, so if I did that right, you can take this guy, run him out to full length, just barely get him in here. That's about right. And we should sit just a little bit further back this way than that, but that's kind of the general idea. And then this 2-inch segment, that's gonna run under for the washing machine. Washing machine only requires 2-inch for its drain. And what we have to do here is we just have to match this section that I built for the upstairs master bathroom that's coming in right here. We just got to get that to match up on this piece and then glue it. This is an example of somewhere where I'm going to want something to mark where these two seams should be. So I've got a number, a 3, and then this line here, and that's where I'm going to use to know how this should be glued up. I can just kind of hang this out here and then get the glue joint ready. Now that I know that I'm lining it up to that 3. Always want to have plenty of glue. You don't want to have a ton more than you need, because it will make it harder. It will make it harder to get the fitting to go all the way through to bottom out. You always want to have plenty, because if you don't, then you will have a problem with leakage, especially on pressure. Not necessarily as big of a deal on drain waste vent, but especially on pressure. Just use a little elbow grease. Want to get that as tight as you can. There we go. And then I'm just going to hold it for 15-20 seconds. It dries out pretty fast. So this flat slope here can't be less than a 1/4 of an inch of drop over the, it's a little bit more than a foot, it's about 2 feet, but I've got this end here. Intention is to have it pretty much up to that beam. So we're going to be a little shy of that unless I bring this guy farther over and raise it up higher, and that would be about right. Heading out to check on the piggies for the day, get them fed. We have had all 3 mamas have their litters. All of the mamas had no complications. However, only one of the mamas was actually able to keep her piglets. The other 2 had issues latching, and the piglets just won't make it if the mama doesn't have a good latch. I've noticed that with smaller litters, here's our boar talking to me here. With smaller litters, the mamas have such an easy time with birth that they don't have that period where they kind of just lay there, and then the piglets find and latch on. So I think we just, and first time mamas, all 3 of them, we haven't had great luck with guinea hogs on first time birthings ever, really. So let's go take a look at the 6 that we have. So we've got all of the parents fed. So the boar's out there eating his grain. I usually put him a little ways away and give him feed first since he's not in with the others. Here's our piglets. They are, very interestingly, they've gotten to a point where they kind of shun the heat lamp. No matter how high it is or how low, they'll actually just cuddle up away from it. A cute little piglet pile there. Mama here, she's getting her feed. So this mama actually, we had thought that she was going to give birth first, or second rather, and she gave birth first and lost her piglets. And the next day, Bertha here gave birth, and she had 8 piglets, and 2 of them didn't make it. I think they just failed to figure out how to latch properly. Look at these little guys. Little piggy pile. So we've got the end of the line here, which leads up to the utility sink, finished and strapped and attached. And just a little detail. So we've got our clean out at the end of the line. and then we 45 it and go up from there. You can see that it does have a little slope on the horizontal. Make sure it drains down and out, and then sizes up to 3" for the rest of the run. Different angle here. We've got the utility area, the laundry room there. That's done. We have the upstairs master bath. This is a little 2" coming up and off and goes over to here, is for the kitchen sink. It's in an island, so dishwasher and kitchen sink. And then coming down here, this guy is a stack that is going to go up to the 2nd floor and service the kids' bedroom, and potentially a future 3rd bathroom in the bonus area on the underneath in the attic underneath the roof line. And that's kind of where we've left off. I worked the plumbing with the drain waste vent 2 different ways, and I couldn't tell you which way is best. I've had success with both and I've had issues with both. So one way is I work everything on each branch and then back to the main line, and that seems to work pretty well. And then sometimes I will work outwards from the main line. So I'm getting the last little bits of the plumbing done, and right now we're working on this guy right behind me, bringing that around to where it's headed. So let me show you what I'm working with, because this is a great spot for me to talk a little bit about some of the problems you may encounter and some of the pieces you may not know if you're doing this for the first time as a DIY project. So this is a joint into my main horizontal drain stack. So there's a couple of different types that are permitted when you're entering into a horizontal drain. I chose to go with this piece, which is a combo. Sometimes they'll be labeled a Y combo. Long and short of it is, these are not as commonly used as a Y, is that guy right there, followed by a 45. And there's a good reason for that. So these, it's exactly what it is until you get to your next fitting. And so you don't necessarily have the ability to turn it ever so slightly if you're not running a straight line up here. And that can be a little bit less versatile. So the combo in this case I used for 2 reasons. First off, it was free to me. It was left over from a project family had done and they had not returned it, so that was no longer possible. It was 4", and from here on the rest of the way out the building, there aren't any additional drop-ins to the main line, but it is at 4" from here out, and that gives me the flexibility to add in the future in the house. We were already at the limit with fixtures, so turning it up to the 4" gives me however many I could pretty much possibly want in the house. So 4", we reduced 3 and 3. So this Y is less flexible than that Y. Now that we're up in here, however, I didn't need the extra flexibility to be able to turn it because I worked this way, headed in the direction that I'm going, which is over to here. And so I kind of used that as the starting point and then built backwards to the individual fixtures. Let me show you the fixture as I'm building it on the ground. So I've got my reducer from 3 to 2 because sink and faucet don't require more than 2. And then we're going up into the Y, and you can see this part's going to the sink and that part's going to the shower. Now we can start installing. And double checking our work here. So this guy is going to fit on there. I already checked and made sure it's not rising above the floor. Obviously that's pretty important. And you can lose a lot of height really quickly, so you got to watch for that. And this piece right now is off, but as this goes on, it looks like that will correct so that it's in line with my line. And then I just have to make sure that as I glue these together, we get to a point where this at the top is at 4 inches out to the dead center of that. So we're gonna go ahead and just wet glue this one on, this first one, and adjust as we get it on. Just run our bead around. Get it to bottom, turn it to where you want it to be. And you do got to make sure that you are pointing up vertically with your pipe so you aren't tweaking it when you go to install. In this case, it's just coming together really nice. I did have it prototyped before and had to rip apart a piece and go buy another one because it just was not going to work. Too much vertical was taking it up above the floor. So you have to come up with, you know, a way that you're joining all your lines that avoids that. Just really small joint pieces here, so once they're in, they're in. I don't have any remainder left over to be able to come back and change. So I better have the right stuff here. Otherwise, you're just throwing money down the drain. Get a good compression on that. I'm going to grab way far back so that I'm not putting too much pressure on this. This is hard, but it's not hard enough yet that I couldn't potentially damage it. They do cure pretty quick. I'll just hold that for a little bit. Hold it for maybe 15-20 seconds typically, and it will reach what it needs to reach to hold, unless you're doing a large assembly. If it's heavy, you'll need more time. I'd give it a minute or two at least. Jam this bad boy on, and again, we run out of our time to micro adjust. You got to watch it at every single step, and I can already tell you that we're going to have to pull this one back, but it is looking pretty good. Bit of a challenge just because it's such a hot day already. I am pouring sweat, and my phone keeps telling me that it's getting too hot, so I gotta keep it out of the sun completely. Does mean this cures really, really fast though. So we're gonna double check it again before we go ahead and glue this last bit. And that is looking pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and say it needs to be maybe adjusted like right there. Now this is my last opportunity to get this movement, so I'm going to grab a tape and we're going to double check it on the top here. And it looks to me like we've got to come out further. So we're going to make that adjustment, which means we turn that. I'd say that's about right. So we're going to go ahead and glue that. So we'll go ahead and pull that. That's just a easy way, if you can keep it in your mind while you're working, an easy way to avoid having to make a bunch of extra work by marking everything off with a pencil. Now, I'm not always successful at that, but people with great memories, other than myself, could probably make a lot of hay. All right, so let's see. We're going to put that exactly lined up where we wanted it, in between the N and the U of the USA. We're going to check it again. I think it's going to look more or less like that. So I don't have a great lineup, but it looks to me, yeah, so we have a little nib that's going to be hard for me to see visually right here. So I'm going to get a pencil for this one and just mark it where I can see it. It's going to be this one right here. Okay, so that's good. Now we're going to go ahead and pull that piece of the P-trap. Glue on that bad boy. Now, one thing you want to make absolutely sure of, if you can, as much as possible, is that all of the measurements that you got for where the rooms are going to be and where the fixtures are going to be are certain, you're not going to end up regretting your prior choices by having it in the wrong spot, because that's a real problem. If you got to come back and rip all this out, you know, a lot of time, a lot of money. So that's the first step, is getting your layout correct. Okay, so that's good. And this last one that I've got to do, I'm just going to go ahead and eyeball this one because I know it's more or less what I want. I just need to get it to match up. If you're still with me here, start it, turn it. This part's already glued. I just got to get that nice and vertical and lined up. We already got it where we want it this way. And I think that looks pretty good right there. So I'll just hold that for a few more seconds and that's it. After all that, we asked the county how they wanted us to cap the pipe outside the building for the 10-foot head pressure test noted on their underfloor inspection guide. And they told us they wouldn't do that part until all the plumbing is done after all. What a waste.
No.
But at least we pretty well plumbed the depths of that subject for now.
Don't.
Well, folks, we didn't have venting today, so if you need to vent, you can do it in the comments on this video.
Stop.
One more and I'm done. What do plumbers, garbage men, and economists all have in common?
All right, last one, and I'll hold you to it. What do they have in common?
They all deal with gross domestic product.
And looks like we're out of time, folks.
Do you remember where you got your boots just now? There's a shovel that's right across from that spot on the gravel.
Thanks for watching.
See you next time.